In this experiment, we will be titrating vinegar, an acid, with sodium hydroxide, a base. Here is some of the equipment we'll be using. Some of the more unusual items include the burette, which is used to add a solution drop by drop, phenolphthalein, which is an acid-base indicator, and a magnetic stir plate, which helps to keep our solution mixed constantly. Deionized water is added to the burette to clean it. The deionized water is then drained. We then add about 5 milliliters of the 0.5 molar sodium hydroxide to prime the burette. This solution, too, is also drained into a waste beaker. We then fill the burette up with the 0.5 molar sodium hydroxide solution. We want this to go beyond the 0.00 mark in the burette because we will drain out a little bit of that afterwards. Because there may be air bubbles in the tip of the burette, we will then drain the sodium hydroxide down to below the 0 mark. This ensures that no air is trapped in the burette. We record down the initial reading volume on the burette. We measure out 10 milliliters of the vinegar solution. But because we will be doing a percent by mass calculation, we also want to determine the mass of the vinegar. We tare the flask. Adding the vinegar to the flask off the balance. And then we return the flask to the balance to determine the mass of the vinegar in the flask. The flask is placed on the magnetic stir plate. The magnetic stir bar is added to the flask. And then 2 to 4 drops of phenolphthalein is added to the flask. This is used as an indicator. In the presence of a base, it will turn pink. Notice that in the presence of the acid, the vinegar, it is clear. The stopcock on the burette is gently turned so that we get slow amounts of the sodium hydroxide added to the vinegar, drop by drop. After some time passes, a pink color starts to persist longer and longer. Eventually, this pink color will persist for a long period of time, upwards of 30 seconds or more. When this happens, we've reached the equivalence point of the titration. Notice the pink color that remains in the solution. The final volume in the burette is now recorded. The solution is then discarded, and the experiment is repeated for multiple trials, in this particular case 4 separate trials.